Tonight, let's fall asleep to something strange. Not a story, but a quiet walk behind the scenes, where horror movies aren't just movies. They're cursed whispers caught on film, where actors, sets, and even directors never left the darkness. Let's begin with a film you may already know. Poltergeist, 1982. A suburban haunting, a cursed production. They say the curse began with the bones. During the infamous pool scene where skeletal arms erupt from muddy water, the production used real human skeletons. Yes, real ones. They were cheaper than plastic. Actors had no idea until filming was complete. JoBeth Williams, who played the mother, recalled filming those scenes in the cold, murky water. Later, she learned the props weren't props at all, just bones. Bones no one could identify. But it didn't end there. Dominique Dunn, who played the eldest daughter, was murdered by her ex-boyfriend just months after the release. Heather O'Rourke, the youngest girl, the one who whispered, "They're here," she died mysteriously at the age of 12 from cardiac arrest, brought on by intestinal stenosis. She had appeared healthy days earlier. 2 other cast members died under unusual circumstances during the trilogy. 4 deaths, 1 film series. Some call it coincidence. Others call it unfinished business. Now let's rewind a little further. The Exorcist, 1973. The one that made people faint in theaters. But the terror didn't stop once the film ended. A fire broke out on set. It destroyed nearly everything, except for Regan's bedroom, the room where the possession took place. Untouched. Not a single burn mark. Director William Friedkin believed it was an omen. He flew in a priest to bless the set. Ellen Burstyn, who played Regan's mother, injured her back for real during the scene where she's thrown across the room. The scream you hear in the movie. That's real pain. 9 deaths were linked to the film by the time it finished its theatrical run. Actors, crew members, even relatives. Some fell ill, others died suddenly. One night, actor Jack McGowran, who played Burke Dennings, died of influenza shortly after filming wrapped. Linda Blair, just a teenager, received death threats for portraying Regan. The studio hired bodyguards for a child. And still, the film was released. With that cold, slow voice whispering Latin prayers, as if something was summoned and never sent back. Let's dim the lights further. Enter The Omen, 1976. A film about the Antichrist. What could go wrong? Gregory Peck, who starred in the film, had his plane struck by lightning while flying to set. Producer Mace Neufeld. His flight was struck too. Different plane, different day, same sky, same storm. One of the most unsettling accidents occurred months later. John Richardson, the special effects designer who created the infamous decapitation scene, was in a car accident while working on another film. His assistant was killed, decapitated. Richardson crawled from the wreckage and saw a sign nearby. Omen, 66.6 kilometers. Omen, the town. But the number, it never lets go. Let's move to something more modern. Still, just as tragic. The Crow, 1994. Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, took the lead role. A story about vengeance from beyond the grave. He never finished filming. During a scene where his character is shot, the prop gun malfunctioned. A real fragment of a bullet casing had lodged in the barrel from earlier. When fired, it struck Lee in the abdomen. He died hours later. He was 28. The scene was never used. The actor playing the shooter left acting altogether. It's eerily similar to Bruce Lee's final movie, Game of Death, where his character is shot by an assassin using a real bullet on set. The parallels are unsettling. Some believe the Lees were cursed. Others say it was negligence. But even today, the Crow is watched with reverence and a chill. Now, let's turn the key to room 237, The Shining, 1980. Snowed-in madness at the Overlook Hotel. Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece of isolation and torment. He was known as a perfectionist, but on The Shining, his methods turned cruel. Shelley Duvall, who played Wendy, was pushed to the edge. Kubrick isolated her from cast and crew. He demanded 127 takes of her, screaming and swinging a bat at Jack Nicholson. Her hair began to fall out. She later described the experience as psychological torment. Nicholson, he lived inside the madness. He stayed in character for weeks. He improvised the line, "Here's Johnny," not in the script. It made the final cut. Kubrick loved it. But behind the scenes, the hotel felt strange. Several crew members reported hearing voices, distant footsteps, and doors creaking open with no one behind them. The famous typewriter, where Jack types, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," over and over. Those pages weren't printed. They were hand-typed by production assistants. Hundreds of them. The film's release didn't end the unease. Kubrick refused to explain the film. He wanted the fear to stay unsolved. And so it did. Now, take a breath. Let it linger in the cold air of the Overlook's halls. Can you hear the wind? The doors creaking? The hum of a distant haunted past? You've heard only a few stories, but there are more, so many more. Close your eyes and listen for part 2, where cursed dolls, haunted scripts, and broken minds await. Sleep, if you can. Welcome back. Still awake? Or drifting somewhere between dreams and darkness? We've only scratched the surface. Let's pull back the curtain a little further and step inside more stories where fiction and fear overlap, where cursed reels keep turning long after the cameras stop. Let's begin with a classic tale of evil born from love. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. A film about satanic cults, paranoia, and possession. It was directed by Roman Polanski, and what followed was horrifying. The film premiered in June. Just over a year later, Polanski's pregnant wife, actress Sharon Tate, was murdered by members of the Manson family. She had begged him to give her a role in the film. He refused. She attended the premiere alone. She was 8.5 months pregnant when she was killed. The baby, unborn, was lost too. Composer Krzysztof Komeda, who scored the film's eerie lullaby theme, suffered a brain hematoma shortly after the film was completed. He never recovered. He died in a coma, just like one of the film's characters. Producer William Castle received hate mail, including a letter that read, "You'll die like the baby." Soon after, he was hospitalized with kidney failure. While in the hospital, he claimed to see visions of the film's characters standing at the foot of his bed. Now let's dim the lights and enter the home of the Warrens. The Conjuring universe, beginning in 2013, is based on the real-life cases of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. They claim to battle demons, hauntings, and possessions. During the filming of The Conjuring, the cast stayed in a hotel. Strange things started happening. Vera Farmiga, who played Lorraine, refused to take the script home. She said it made her feel watched. One morning, she woke to find 5 claw marks slashed across her laptop screen. Another night, she dreamt of a dark presence dragging her from bed, only to wake up on the floor, out of breath. The real Perron family, the ones the movie is based on, visited the set. Shortly after, Carolyn Perron was injured and had to be taken to the hospital. Director James Wan admitted, "The set felt heavy, oppressive, like something didn't want us there." And then there's Annabelle. The real doll, locked inside a glass case in the Warrens' occult museum, is not the porcelain version from the films. It's a raggedy, faded Raggedy Ann. They say it's responsible for at least one death. A motorcyclist mocked the doll while visiting the museum. On his way home, he lost control of his bike and crashed into a tree. The crash occurred less than 2 hours after he left. When filming Annabelle Comes Home, the crew reported cameras turning off at random, batteries draining in minutes, and doors slamming with no wind. One of the producers said he saw the doll move on its own between takes, just slightly. No one else saw it, but no one doubted him. Let's change locations now to a set where fiction blurred into horror. Twilight Zone, the movie, 1983. During a nighttime scene involving a helicopter, actor Vic Morrow and 2 child actors were filming a rescue shot. The helicopter spun out of control and crashed. All 3 were killed instantly. Morrow was decapitated. The children, ages 6 and 7, died on impact. Director John Landis was later put on trial for manslaughter. It was the first time in Hollywood history a director faced criminal charges for a death on set. The scene was meant to depict redemption. Instead, it became real tragedy. One cameraman quit the industry entirely. He said the screams haunted his sleep. And still, the film was released. Now let's head to Sweden. A field of flowers hides something far darker in Midsommar, 2019. Director Ari Aster designed every frame like a painting, but the beauty masked discomfort. The cast lived together in isolation during the shoot, just like their characters. No cell phones, no distractions, only long, hot days and a constant sense of unease. Florence Pugh, who plays Danny, said the film left her emotionally drained. After her final crying scene, she sobbed for real, for nearly an hour. She later said, I didn't realize how deeply it would affect me. I felt like I had lost something I couldn't get back. And maybe she had. Let's turn now to Hereditary, 2018. Also directed by Ari Aster. He described it not as a horror movie, but as a tragedy cursed by grief. Toni Collette gives one of the most emotionally raw performances in modern horror. She screamed so deeply during one scene that the camera operator turned away, tears in his eyes. Actors on set reported sleep paralysis, intense nightmares, and visions of figures standing silently in the corners of rooms. The strange clicking sound made by the character Charlie. It wasn't scripted. Actress Millie Shapiro began doing it to unsettle the cast between takes. Astor told her, "Keep it. Make it a warning." Now, let's go back to the 70s. Not Hollywood, not New York, but deep in the woods. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Filmed on a shoestring budget in the forests of Maryland. The cast wasn't acting. They were actually lost for hours, given less food each day, fed misinformation to build paranoia. The directors left them clues in canisters scattered through the woods. But only one actor would receive the real information. The others were left in the dark. Tensions rose. Fights became real. Heather Donahue's famous scene, the one with her crying into the camera, wasn't scripted. She thought she heard something in the woods. She was truly afraid. When the film premiered, it was marketed as real found footage. People believed the actors were dead. The actors had to go into hiding until the campaign ended. One of them later said, "I didn't act for years. I couldn't sleep without lights on." So, what are we really watching? Entertainment or something deeper? Some believe fear leaves a trace. That intense emotion imprints on the film itself. That the camera records more than light. It traps energy, trauma, even spirits. You don't have to believe it. But when dozens of films, across decades, leave actors sleepless, set pieces burning, and viewers changed, you begin to wonder. Close your eyes. You're not alone. We still have one reel left. Part 3, Sleep If You Dare, is coming soon, and it may be the most haunting one yet. Still with me? You've wandered through cursed sets, haunted props, and tragedies captured on film. But sleep won't come just yet. There's one last reel to play, and this one lingers. Let's start with the stench of fear. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Hot, brutal, filmed under a Texas sun that seemed angry. The house used in the film had no air conditioning. They filmed for up to 27 hours straight. Rotting animal bones and food were scattered around to create the smell of decay. But the smell wasn't fake. Meat was left out in the heat to save money on props. Several actors vomited during takes. One passed out in a pig mask. The chainsaw, fully functional. Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, said, "I was swinging a live saw inches from people's heads. No one cared. No one checked. We were all just trying to survive the shoot." He added, "I wasn't acting anymore." From the brutal to the paranormal. Paranormal Activity 2007, filmed in just 1 week. The actors weren't given full scripts. They were told to react, to improvise their fear. The house was real, no soundstage, no backlot. Director Oren Peli said lights would flicker at night when editing footage. Doors in the house would slam shut with no wind. The actors said they couldn't sleep during production. Katie Featherston, the lead actress, later admitted she would wake up at 3 a.m. for weeks, without knowing why. Audiences fainted, walked out. Some said they felt followed after watching it. The film was banned in some countries, not for violence, but for spiritual disruption. Now step through the veil into Sinister, 2012. A film about a writer discovering home movies of other families being murdered. During test screenings, the film was rated as the scariest ever recorded, based on heart rate monitors. Why? Maybe it was the grainy Super 8 footage. Maybe it was the whispers. Maybe it was because actor Ethan Hawke was never shown the footage in advance. His reaction, his terror, is real. Director Scott Derrickson used true crime and occult symbolism based on real lore. Some symbols weren't explained. Not to the cast, not to the crew. They were just there. Several members of the editing team refused to stay alone in the studio while cutting the film. Insidious, another haunting tale, carries its own shadow. During production, cast and crew reported hearing the piano play at night, unattended. A child's laugh echoed through the sound stage more than once. It was dismissed as playback. But when checked, the speakers were off. Patrick Wilson, who starred in both Insidious and The Conjuring, has never publicly spoken of these incidents. But co-star Lin Shaye admitted in interviews, there was a darkness on that set. Not the people, just something behind them. And then there's the fear that follows you after you've left the theater. Like with The Ring, 2002. A cursed videotape that kills you in 7 days. The American remake involved several eerie moments. Naomi Watts received dozens of blank calls at night during filming. Sometimes she'd hear static, other times just breathing. A production assistant found their TV turning on by itself in the middle of the night, always to static. Always at 2:13 a.m. Prop televisions used during filming malfunctioned frequently. One exploded during a take. No one was hurt. But the image on screen wasn't what was being filmed. It was an old test pattern from the 1980s. No one could explain it. Let's move into the realm of Final Destination 2000. A franchise about avoiding death, only for death to find you anyway. During the filming of the second film, a stunt driver broke multiple bones in a crash that was supposed to be safe. The crash mimicked one in the script, almost identically. Later that year, a plane carrying one of the film's visual effects artists was struck by lightning midair. It survived. but it lost cabin pressure. For 6 minutes, the passengers thought they were going to die. He later said, "I couldn't stop thinking of the movie. I thought I'd cheated death, but it found me." Even the original film was based on a real story, a writer's dream of a plane exploding. He changed his flight. The plane he would have been on crashed. No survivors. Now, let's slow things down. Not all horror is about blood. Sometimes it's about what stays. Like the strange phenomenon of sleep paralysis films. The Nightmare, 2015, a documentary on the condition, was so disturbing. People reported experiencing sleep paralysis just from watching it. The director interviewed real sufferers, many who claimed to see the same figure. A tall shadow man with no face. He appears in different countries, different cultures, same description. Viewers began reporting sightings. Emails flooded in. I watched it, and now he's standing in my room at night. Coincidence? Or something summoned? Let's end where horror often begins. With lost films. There are rumors in Hollywood of movies that were never released. Not because they were bad, but because they were too disturbing. One is called Antrum, the deadliest film ever made. Released quietly in 2018, it claims to be a cursed film from the 1970s. Screenings reportedly ended with fires, illnesses, one death. The film includes strange symbols, subliminal imagery, and a disjointed narrative. It tells the story of two siblings trying to dig a hole to hell. The film itself is said to be possessed. A mockumentary? Maybe. But even skeptical reviewers say they felt watched while viewing it. One critic never submitted their review. They were found in their apartment, TV still on, showing static. And now, you're here, still listening, still watching the shadows at the edges of your room. You've traveled through decades of dread, actors who never made it to the credits, directors who filmed fear, and accidentally captured something more. A final thought. Sometimes horror follows the lens. Sometimes it lingers in the celluloid. And sometimes, just sometimes, it slips through the screen and waits in the dark for someone just like you. Good night. Sleep well. And if you hear your TV click on, don't turn around.